The Cleveland Browns and Minnesota Vikings met for the National Football League Championship, celebrating the 50th year of pro football. Both are relative newcomers to the league, the Browns having joined in 1950, while the Vikings were non-existent 10 short years ago. Likewise, both came into the title game as red-hot as this mobile heater that had to keep the field in excellent shape up to game time. The Browns under coach Blanton Collier entered as the class of the East after working another voodoo job on the Cowboys. Their so-called rubber band defense, quarterback Bill Nelson, 3 fine receivers, and Leroy Kelly were out to avenge a 51-3 pummeling by the Vikings earlier in the year and a defeat by the Colts in last year's championship. Coach Bud Grant and the Vikings were out to avenge nothing. They merely wanted to be the first expansion team in pro football history to win the title, and their arsenal consisted of 2 potent weapons: a tough, reckless defense led by their front 4 called the Purple People Eaters, and an equally fearless leader named Joe Cap, who plays quarterback with the reckless abandon of a middle linebacker. Cap and his defense steamrolled their way to the title game with an exciting win over the Rams. And although their early, easier victory over the Browns in regular season gave the Vikings a psychological edge, both teams were confident that Bourbon Street awaited them at the end of today's game. The Dixieland Jazz of New Orleans would become a reality for the Vikings. The Browns, however, would depart with the old St. Louis Blues. I'm Jack Whitaker, and this is the NFL Game of the Week. Physically, the tenor of the game was set from the opening kickoff, as seen from our end zone camera. It would be nothing less than a hard-hitting, all-out effort by both clubs. Joe Cap came out throwing as he did against the Rams, and he wanted to burn rookie cornerback Walt Sumner. But on the first play from scrimmage, he failed. He then tested his ground game against a quick front 4, and number 30, Bill Brown, succeeded with a big gainer. On the play, watch number 51 linebacker Dale Lindsey dive and miss Brown, who helped establish the running game Cap would count on heavily. Cap's fort, though, is the long bomb, and he was intent on beating Sumner with it. He heaved the ball to Gene Washington, and after an amazing catch, the Vikings were on the Browns' 24. On a repeat from our super slow-motion camera, watch Bill Brown take out the blitzing number 82, Jim Houston, while other Viking linemen also did their job to give Cap the time he needed to complete his pass to the great receiver. Then Cap returned to the ground, and Dave Osborne, number 41, was turned loose on the first of what were to be many important runs for the veteran from North Dakota. On a replay, watch Osborne's determination and second effort that enabled him to get extra yards on the play. Then Cap decided to improvise. Result, 6 points. The first score of the game came on a busted play. Cap bumped into Brown and decided to go for pay dirt himself. The amazing quarterback once again did nothing right except score, as the California-bred, Canadian-hardened Viking leader had put his team into a quick 7-0 lead. The Browns started out well also, as Bill Nelson's plan was to negate the Viking rush with a short game. Quick screens and flares and draws to his backs, Leroy Kelly and number 35, Bo Scott. But his plan would eventually fail due to great pressure from the Viking front 4 and great pursuit by number 58, Wally Hilgenberg. Cleveland's first series ended in a punt. The Vikings play a basic, simple game of football, but their game plans are as unusual as their quarterback. Bombs on first down, runs on second and third. Cap again came out throwing. Intent on hitting Gene Washington, Cap again went up top long, and it paid off. Defender Erich Barnes had slipped, so number 84 took it all alone and trotted into the end zone. As interesting as the downfield action was what happened to quarterback Cap on the touchdown. Cap was rocked as he threw and never did see the catch or run by Washington. Joe was told of his success by none other than the man in the striped shirt, and Cap exited with a 14-0 lead midway through the first quarter. The rest of the period yielded no more scoring. For the Browns, it yielded nothing but frustration. Cleveland's ground game and its famed sweep was being shut off continually by the great play of Wally Hilgenberg, who would play a key role throughout the game. Nelson was also having trouble with his passing. The front four was not getting to him, but their pressure was forcing his timing off, and he was throwing either too early or too late, as this isolated view of Gary Collins shows. Later in the quarter, the Vikings forced the first turnover of the game, a fumble by Kelly. One of the men who hit Kelly and later recovered the fumble was Wally Hilgenberg. From here, Cap took the Vikings to another score. The running of Bill Brown and Dave Osborne got the ball to the Browns' 30. Osborne's trademark is second effort, and he was showing it today. A Cap to Washington pass ended the first quarter on the Browns' 18. As he always does, Cap conferred with Coach Grant as the teams changed direction. But Grant was once coached by his adversary today, Coach Blanton Collier, who was now pacing the sidelines, wondering what fate the Norse gods next had in store for him. What the gods had for Collier and the Browns was more of Joe Cap. But for the first time in memory, Cap headed for the sidelines on this scramble, not for the defender's body. Dave Osborne had been running extremely well inside the tackle so far, twisting and turning to get extra yards, and he got 6 more on second down. But a penalty made it 3rd and 14. Cap saw Henderson had beaten his man deep, and he went to him, but the sun seemed to cause Henderson to lose sight for a split second, and it went for naught. So Fred Cox came in, kicked a 30-yard field goal, and it was 17-0. The next time the Browns got the ball, they got their first down since the opening series on a Kelly run. Even though it went for a good gain, watch number 59, Lonnie Warwick, prevent a further gain by recovering quickly and tripping up Kelly as he broke into daylight. Nelson's passing was not sharp, as he seemed to be hearing the footsteps of the Viking front four. So he tried a play action to hold the defense, and instead, Nelson threw up his first interception on a wobbly pass caught by the ubiquitous Wally Hilgenberg. The Vikings had their second turnover and could all but ice the game if Cap could convert it into points. This Joe Cap did, but the man who carried most of the burden was Dave Osborne. Osborne is a slashing type runner who has the speed to turn the corner. On the last play, watch Ozzie break an attempted tackle by number 50, John Garlington, then cut around left end 16 yards into Browns territory. The Browns line was now keying on Osborne. Watch what happens to number 41 on this next play, even though he didn't have the ball. A runner's lot is not always a happy one. Now on the 28, Cap was mixing his plays well, and a pass to John Henderson got a first down at the 20, as the offensive line was again today Cap's impeccable protector. Then, as if the Norse gods had ordained it, Dave Osborne shot off left tackle past a flying defender and went 20 yards to a touchdown. On a replay, watch Osborne evade the leap of defender Mike Howell, number 34, then carry linebacker Garlington into the end zone. Osborne now had over 60 yards rushing in the half. Now let's see the blocks that initially set Osborne loose to the biggest play of the game so far. Watch the blocking of setback Reed, number 64 Milt Sunday, and number 80 John Henderson, as Osborne then evades tacklers himself and drags Garlington into the end zone. This touchdown, which gave the Vikings a 24-0 lead, had virtually ended the NFL championship with 4 minutes to go in the half. Once again, Joe Cap, the front four, Dave Osborne, and 34 other Vikings had stunned and staggered their enemy with an aggressive, explosive style of football. And the Purple Gang from Minnesota could all but hear the trumpets blaring on Bourbon Street. It wasn't until late in the second period that Cleveland showed some thrust, and Kelly was the man who sparked it with a 22-yard run to the Cleveland 45. A repeat in super slow motion shows two Vikings had overcharged, and Kelly simply changed direction to the outside, broke a tackle, and streaked down the sideline before being forced out by Paul Krause. Bill Nelson then completed his first downfield pass, and, as if to prove he was back on the beam, threaded the needle on a second pass to Collins deep in Viking territory. The Browns desperately wanted to get on the scoreboard before the half ended, but it was too little too late. Nelson's next two passes fell harmlessly in the end zone, and the half ended 24-0. Minnesota had executed their game plan. They put points on the board early and forced their opponents away from the ball control game they play so well. Minnesota had momentum and a 24-point lead over the frozen, frustrated Browns. The second half began, and Cleveland started the long road back with Bill Nelson and many of the Browns wearing a sneaker-type shoe. For a while, it looked like it might make a difference. Bo Scott took a screen and, running beautifully, twisted 35 yards to the Minnesota 40. It was a great individual effort by Scott, but as a repeat shows, it was a perfect screen that sprung him. The Viking rush was allowed to filter through, and Nelson passed through the outstretched hands of Carl Eller. Several players had a shot at Scott, but none got him until Carl Kazuki pulled him down from behind. After Leroy Kelly ran the ball to the 27, Nelson tried for Collins in the end zone. But free safety Paul Krause intercepted to end Cleveland's biggest threat of the day. A repeat shows that Collins, who had run his favorite, the post pattern, clearly had his man beaten, but Krause seemed to come from nowhere to take the ball away. This is in the best tradition of the free safety position, the ball hawks of pro football. After such an enjoyable first half, Joe Kapp appeared eager to get going again. His meal ticket was again Dave Osborne, who today gave an outstanding demonstration of the virtues of second effort. He continually bounced off defenders for large gains after apparently being stopped at the line. He totaled over 100 yards rushing. Then inside Cleveland territory, a play occurred which typifies the Viking rough style of play. The most physical of all is their leader, Kapp, and when he can't throw the ball, he throws himself. This time, it was Big Jim Houston Kapp hurled into. When the dust had cleared, the Cleveland linebacker was knocked cold, never to play again this day. Joe Kapp merely returned to his huddle, ready for the next play. A repeat from the end zone shows Kapp's receivers were covered, so he took off around right end for his date with Houston. His knee hit the Browns' captain in the head. Houston never knew what hit him. Houston, a 10-year veteran, was replaced by number 52, inexperienced Bill Andrews, and Kapp didn't waste any time picking on the young linebacker. He burned him with the circle pattern, which pits a setback coming out of the backfield one-on-one with the linebacker. Andrews could only clutch futilely as the Viking back streaked by him for a substantial gain. Another look reveals the receiver was number 30, 230-pound Bill Brown, an original member of the young team and their all-time leading runner. Brown's efforts resulted in a Fred Cox field goal from the 32-yard line and a 27-0 ball game. Despite the snowballing score, Cleveland didn't lose its composure and continued attacking to the end. Nelson led them on 2 long time-consuming drives, the first leading to their only score of the day. The Browns returned to the medium-range quick passes that worked so well all season. The first was to Milt Morin for 18 yards, and the second to Paul Warfield for his first catch of the day. An isolated look at Warfield discloses he slipped while making his cut, but still managed to slant in and take the ball. The final quarter began, and Nelson continued gunning. He was getting more time to plant his feet before unloading, and his accuracy returned. Warfield's diving catch between 2 defenders put the ball in the Viking 9. A repeat shows that Nelson threw to a spot rather than the receiver. Warfield's timing was perfect. Nelson then hit Collins at the right sideline for 7 more yards at the Minnesota 2. The Cleveland quarterback then returned to Collins on a turnout for the first and only Cleveland touchdown of the day. A review of the scoring play in slow motion shows the play-action fake to Scott froze the linebackers long enough to allow clear passing lanes on the right side. The Browns had finally scored. A few points can do wonders for a defense. Even one down, 20 points. The Cleveland front four visibly slumped when the Vikings got their quick 14-point lead. Now, for the first and only time in the game, they asserted themselves. The Vikings were forced to punt, and Cleveland was on the move again. Nelson was throwing with authority now and employed Kelly on 2 successive passes for good yardage. This is a facet of Kelly's talent that is often overlooked. Besides running and throwing well, number 44 is an excellent receiver. Despite the fact that Cleveland was virtually ignoring the running game, Kelly gained 80 yards on the ground. Nelson continued to employ his air arsenal of short and medium-range strikes. With little more than pride at stake, the Browns were determined to get into the end zone one more time. In this, their 11th championship game in 20 years. With a strike to Warfield, Nelson had completed 10 straight passes. And with the ball inside of the goal line, it appeared Cleveland wouldn't be denied. But the purple platoon prevailed. Watch number 88, Alan Page, overpower his blocker, almost decapitate Nelson, then finish him off with pursuit worthy of a linebacker. This combination of strength and speed made Page an all-pro in his 3rd season. With it 4th and 10, the Browns had their last chance of the game. The Viking defense camouflaged the blitz until just before the snap, then blew in on Nelson, who had to pass hurriedly and inaccurately. Bill Nelson of the shrewd mind, average arm, and bad knees had been called a winner by Bud Grant. But today, a disappointed young quarterback fell far short of his championship goal for the 2nd year in a row. Cap just had to keep the ball on the ground to run the clock out, and he couldn't resist doing even this in a somewhat unorthodox manner. Cap's maneuvers put the Vikings at the Cleveland goal as time ran out. A lineman's frustration said it all for the Browns. But it was the finest day of all for Minnesota and the Vikings. They entered the NFL in 1961 and struggled for years. After one winning season in 6, Bud Grant and Joe Cap were brought in, and the club became a winner. The Vikings are the first expansion team to win an NFL title. Next week in New Orleans, they hope to end a magnificent season in a perfect way. A victory over the Kansas City Chiefs in the Super Bowl. It will be the final test for the powerful Purple Gang from Minnesota.